This is in response to Billy's Talking Points memo from Wednesday, April 1st, 2015, the religious right versus the Constitution. Now, I'd like to say that there isn't a discrepancy in what he's talking about, in the sense that the Constitution is there to protect all people. It is there to protect everyone. The religious right is there to protect their own self and their own self-interests. And what Billy is talking about and is going to try and get into, in my opinion, is the religious right is trying to wheedle away and indicate that this is what the Constitution means, to protect them and not anyone else. So they want to continue to be prejudicial. They want to continue to be homophobic. They want to continue to be bigoted, because they think that that's their right as a Christian to be. And I disagree with all of that. And Billy was a little bit on the opposite side. Now, Billy goes back and starts out by blaming this whole thing on Roe versus Wade, which was in 1973, and that it was a 7-2 decision by the Supreme Court that abortion should be legal. And remember, even though there is a large Christian contingent in the United States, it is not all of Americans. I don't even know if it's half of the Americans. And then we have the RCs, which are recovering Catholics, or what they used to call C and E Catholics, Christmas and Easter Catholics. I'm sure they have the same thing in many other Christian religions also, where they only show up on Christmas and Easter and things like that. So, but the religious right has their own political block, and what they're trying to do is to express their political feelings and codify that into the Constitution, which I don't agree with at all. And, Billy goes on to talk about how people who have strong religious beliefs, because they read that in the Bible, which was written, 1,500 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago, that if they wrote something in the Bible and they believe it, that gives them a right to be a bigot, a homophobe, to deny services to people in a place of business. And remember, that's because they called homosexuality an abomination or something like that back in the Bible. But remember, there are a lot of things that you can get in trouble for in the Bible that we don't pay any attention to today. So they're very selective in what they're paying attention to in the Bible. I'd like to do a whole thing on the Bible later, but that'd be another rant. And Billy goes on, this was about reproductive rights in terms of Roe versus Wade, and it was reproductive rights of all women in the United States, whether they were Christians or whether they were not Christians. It was about everything in there. And of course, Billy goes on to say that if you want to deny something for a woman, then there's a war on women. And yes, there is. There is a war on women, because how many Republicans voted for the Lilly Ledbetter Act? How many Republicans voted for equal pay for equal work? How many Republicans are voted to raise the minimum wage? And remember, the minimum wage for single working mothers of young children is just a killer. That's why they have to have these other social services and the social safety net the Republicans are trying to get out, is because minimum wage is so low, and there happen to be single mothers with children, and they can't make any money. So there is a war on women, and it's a big war that's being done by white men in the Republican Party who pander to the Christian right, to the religious right. So, and of course, he's got to bring on somebody who was at Mark Rubio, who basically talked on both sides of his mouth, basically indicating, that you shouldn't be denied services, but you shouldn't deny a Christian to be a bigot, to be a homophobe, to be prejudicial towards someone else because they don't conform to their religious values. Yes, that's what they say. Now remember that it's been not codified, but it's been held up in the Supreme Court that if you open a place of business, butcher, baker, candlestick maker, whatever you want to call it, and you open it up to everybody, that means that you can't be prejudicial against anyone. You can't be prejudicial against this black person. You can't be prejudicial against this Jewish person. You can't be prejudicial against this Southern Baptist. And of course, a lot of people on the Christian right who are not Catholics, they they don't like Catholics, or they certainly didn't like them for a long, long time. So if you open it up, you can't be prejudicial against a Catholic. So the same thing holds true. You can't be prejudiced against the LGBT community or anyone else. And if you do, and if you have these strong religious beliefs that it's an abomination, then according to Billy, you're a homophobe, you're a bigot. Yes, you are. You are. That's exactly what you are. Now, Billy blames a lot of this on what he calls the secular progressives. that the secular progressives are denigrating people of faith. And of course, that's what people of faith in the religious right are basically saying, is that, you see, they always have to have a fall guy. And the fall guy in this instance is the secular progressives. And what does that even mean? But they're denigrating people of faith. No, they're not denigrating people of faith. They're just saying, we hold the Constitution, which says we need to treat everyone equally here in the United States. And if you own a business, you can't deny anyone services. But the religious right said, what about my religious freedoms? Well, go take your religious freedoms in your bedroom and just take care of it yourself. Don't expose it on other people. And so denigrating people of faith is a big thing to Billy. But I like to just go back. There has been a tremendous amount of repression, especially towards blacks. And there's been a tremendous amount of repression, especially towards people in the LGBT community, going back just as long. Now, I wouldn't say that the blacks are equal in status, that, yes, their laws are written there, but we can see that every single day. What was the thing I saw yesterday? That police had killed 111 people in the United States in the month of March of this year, 111, and that most of them were people of color. And that from 1900 until 2015, Britain had only killed 92 people. Of course, they don't carry guns, but that's a different story. But there's been a tremendous amount of repression of black people and of people in the LGBT community for hundreds of years in the United States. And now that they're getting a little bit of equality, the people that loved to keep them down all along. Remember that even in the 1940s and the 1950s, white people were making sermons, pastors or whatever they want to call them, proctors, were making sermons in the South justifying holding blacks back in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, because this is what the Bible said. So, the religious right, wants to codify their hate by having laws that allow them to do these types of things. And it isn't the secular progressives. It's the natural movement of the United States as a fair and balanced society. And Billy wants to blame all the secular progressives. He wants to blame celebrities, and then he wants to blame people of the leaders of the religious faith who are not stepping up. Those people are stepping up all the time. You can hear their hate on radio and TV all the time. Pat Robertson is a pretty good example of one. But again, the religious right wants to change the Constitution so that it can be more to their liking as opposed to the liking of everyone in the United States and being fair in the United States. They want to continue the legalization of their hate, their bigotry, and their homophobia.